Hey everyone, I thought I'd do something a bit different today than my usual content of like remixes, mashups, original tracks because I kind of want to grow this channel. Feel like the best way to do that, as well as releasing tracks, obviously, is to do kind of content that's in the vein of kind of the genre. So I'm going to be doing some videos sort of like this, but then also videos of like track breakdowns and stuff. And of course, if you guys have any ideas for content, please let me know. Now, the video today, it's something quite different. I'm actually going to go over the top 10 of the DJ producers that 1001 track list has released and, just give my opinions. I might have some opinions you don't like. Feel free to let me know in the comments and just go at me if there's something you think I said that's wrong or an unpopular opinion, but I'm just going to give my honest thoughts on it all. All right, starting off strong, number 10, Odd Mob, Australia represent, of course. In my opinion, he should be higher. He got considerable support from industry leaders like John Summit, Dom Dollar. He started the year strong, of course, with his Saving Up remix of one of Dom Dollar's tracks. In my opinion, that remix is honestly better than the original. He's also had insane remixes like The Last Goodbye, obviously, with Ordeza, and he's Saving Up remix, like I mentioned earlier, with Dom Dollar. And then his Sean Paul remix, which he was the first one that Sean Paul actually agreed to a remix to. Yeah, he's done really well. In my opinion, he should be in the top four easily with the year he's had. It's like, I'll put it up now, all the tracks that he's released this year. He's just been on an absolute tear and excited to see what he brings out for the rest of the year. Number 9, Like Mike. Can't really say too much about him since I only really know him from the Dimitri Vegas collab. And then again, I don't really listen to that either. It's more just I'll play some of their remixes of popular tracks at parties because their techno tracks do go off. But in looking at his releases for the year, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. He releases a lot of melodic techno, and I mean, it's not Anima levels of good, but it's pretty alright. And he had a consistent year too. Like, he probably released a track every month. So overall, solid year. I feel like solid selection. In my opinion, he probably wouldn't make the top 10, but that's just my opinion. Number 8, a surprise for me since I kind of thought his year went a bit under the radar. Oliver Heldens, he, had a massive year. His physical kind of Dua Lipa cover, I think it is. It was really good when I listened to it. It's kind of like his old style, kind of like the Gecko track, but it also brings a lot of new stuff to the table. It's just overall, quite solid. And he had an incredible range of releases this year, going from, of course, that to his high low alias, which had a very strong year. I think he released something like 10 to 12 tracks on that alias, and they all have like similar art to them. So I think they might be all in a part of an album, but I'm not too sure. Overall, though, very good year from Oliver Heldens. Number 7, of course, one third of Swedish House Mafia, Steve Angello. I thought this guy's year went under the radar, but obviously a lot more people have noticed him and his individual work. Of course, I think most of the popularity this year probably came from his Skip release with Sebastian Ingrosso. I thought that track was pretty solid, but not one of his best for the year. His best, I feel like, were the two remixes, especially Freedom, which I think's the Body Ocean remix. I don't know, there's just something about that track. It's really cool. I remember discovering it. It was actually I think it first got released in the Dom Dollar Essential Mix. I remember I was on a road trip with mates and it came on, and we were all trying to find the ID in the track, and pleasantly surprised when it was a Steve Angelo release. It's just very unexpected. It's very weird from the like usual Swedish House Mafia sound. Um, Funny thing to note too, he actually finished the same spot as last year, but I feel like he had a considerably more stronger year this year, with that sort of more darker sound, and even some of his lighter tracks like Me, they were just all very solid releases for the year. Number 6, Mal P. I kind of thought this guy would go a bit higher, but I think he had 4 releases this year, and kind of the more tracks you release, the more support you get. It works like that, but also if you release really good tracks, you can move up like this. So he's done pretty well to get to number 6 with only 4 releases. Obviously, his On Again track, very unique release. It featured his own vocals, which was a first for him, but it kind of brought the pop structure to tech house and not, the usual four-word tech house songs we're kind of all accustomed to and all kind of right. But overall, very good year for MRP. Excited what he brings next year. Number five is Hugo. I don't know too much, but he's certainly on the list due to Afro House's rising popularity. I knew him from his release with Diplo, obviously the Stay High remix that did really well in the charts. Overall, solid tracks within the genre. Another artist who had a consistent year. Just look at the side, like lots of releases, and obviously, you release more tracks, you'll get more support, and you'll finish higher on this list. That's just how these things sort of work. Next up, Tiesto. He's kind of lives in the top 10 every year. Solid year, I'd say, but not his best. Surprisingly, his U2 remix, the Atomic City track, which is a new U2 track as well. It's really underrated. I really enjoyed it. It's not like the typical, Tiesto remix that he releases 100 of a year. It's just, it's very well produced, very well done. Overall, solid year for Tiesto. Pretty much a remix year, no original tracks. But yeah, he's always pretty much going to get top 10 no matter what he releases. Moving to the top three now, Dimitri Vegas. It's always controversial when this name releases on the list, of course, due to the iPad controversy. I won't go into detail in this video about that, but he had a solid year with collabs with Tiesto and obviously like Mike. Good remixes and originals, however, top three spot, I don't know. It's just, I read the comments too on the Instagram and it seems like a lot of people have this opinion too. It's just, he had an alright year, but to get top three, I don't know. At number two, another figure that always gets on these lists, kind of always causes controversy because a lot of people don't know if he writes his music. I reckon he does to some degree, but we'll talk about that at another stage. He had an okay year with definitely his Let's Go track with Jaden Borge, and that was really good. Although David Guetta's input on the track, I'm not too sure because it was kind of finished and then it got viral, and then David Guetta magically appears as a feature on it. So, take with that as you will. He's I chose tracks for my top four, which weren't remixes, as I'm kind of sick of David Guetta releasing remixes all the time. Like, bring back your old original tracks from like early 2000s, 2010s, and not just these lazy, pretty much adding a kick drum to an old track, making the vocal a bit higher. It was a trend the past 2 years, and I think everyone's just kind of sick of it by now. I'll mention too, he's Man in Finance. That's probably up there for the worst release of the year. That was another iffy one that don't know how it went viral on TikTok. And then the fact it just completely copies like a G6, not sure about that one. But overall, pretty okay year for David Guetta. Moving on to number one, John Summit, of course. This is probably not a surprise to anyone. He's obviously been a pioneer in the space the past few years. He's released an album this year, Comfort in the Chaos, which, I mean, unusual for an EDM artist since kind of the go-to in EDM is to release singles and get them signed by labels. But obviously, when you get to a certain size, it's all right to release an album because people will listen to it no matter what. This year he did very, very solid with branching out to other genres while keeping the same sound. Obviously, examples of this is Go Back with Subfocus. It goes from house to drum and bass, and then Gas Pedal with Subtronics. Very underrated and very surprising remix. No one really saw this coming, and both of them have kind of changing time in the drop, which it works really well, and I feel like it's going to start to become a trend in the future. Also, I'd mention his Madison Square stage production was unreal, and because he's a pioneer in that space as well, with his kind of Daft Punk Alive esque stage design. But also, he brought in a new aspect the other week where the stage is like spinning around. Overall, deserved number one spot, and excited to see what he releases in the future. Now that's it, everyone. That's my thoughts overall on this track list. Obviously, this track list is determined not by opinion, it's determined by how much support artists get. So that's why it's a bit weird, but overall, I feel like pretty solid list. There's some in there I'm not too sure about. I'd definitely change the order around. But yeah, that was my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed this type of content. Let me know in the comments if you want me to release similar stuff to this, if you want me to release different things. Of course, like and subscribe down below if you've made it this far. I'll see you next time.